That's kind of the concept. Like I always imagined that as a child.
Oh my goodness. So it almost like this is perfect.
Asking questions about the case and
what do you love to do within the minute? Hello and good day, folks in mini land. How is everybody doing? Please say hello in the comments section. The chat box is open. It's been a while since I had one of these, so it's good to see everybody. I hope everybody is doing well. I'm looking for the chat box and I can't find it. Okay, there it is. Definitely say hello. Chat box is open. Where are you joining from? Hi, Lynn in Newark. Great to see you. Hi, Heather. Great to see you. Good to see everybody. I'm so excited to be having this again because it's been a while and it's so good to just talk miniatures. And so yeah, say hello in the chat box. Chat box will be open throughout. Before I bring my guest on, I'm going to go through some housekeeping and some updates. Hey, Denver. Hi, Marjorie. Good to see you. Wow, it's good to see everybody. Hey, Tennessee. Kathy. Love it. Hey, Rhode Island. Yay, East Coast. Good to see everybody. Yeah, so we're just at the top of the hour. Hi, far northwest, Whidbey Island. Hi, Eleanor. Hey, Western Canada. Love my Canadian friends. Good to see you. Hi, Maureen. All right, let me go ahead and start with some updates on what's going on in the mini world. The spring miniature show season is underway. We just came through the Tom Bishop show, the Kensington show happened, a couple of the biggies just happened, but there are a lot of local shows that are happening, and I don't want you to forget about the local shows because that's really where it all begins, and that's where like some of the local folks show their stuff, and then they get traded up to the larger shows, so you want to support those shows, and there's always something new to see, so I really highly recommend you check out the local show scene if one is happening near you. Donald is on the line, so say hello to Donald, helping behind the scenes. Thank you very much, Donald. He's going to put the links in the chat box if you guys want to more information on what I'm talking about. But there's a miniature company called Small House Models. I forget the name of the woman who runs it, but she does a lot of tutorials. She has she sells her miniatures, but she also sort of puts together a calendar of events that's happening throughout the United States. I'm not sure if it happens internationally, but we're going to put the link in there. She's got a calendar, so I would go and bookmark that calendar so you could head over there and find out what's going on that month or that year. Smallhousemodels.com is the name of the website, and we're going to put the link in the thank you, Donald. Put it in. Local shows happening. The link is in there, so go ahead, screenshot that or click on it while we're chatting. A couple of other things that are happening in the mini world. The Antique Roadshow. I don't know if you're a PBS Antiques Roadshow fan, as I am, but a Maurice Gottschalk, which is very famous late 1800s, early 20th century dollhouse maker, I believe out of Germany. One of those dollhouses hit the Antique Roadshow, and you're going to have to go click on and see the segment to find out how much that dollhouse was worth. I think it'll blow your mind. So we'll put that link in there too. If you didn't know already and follow me on my other social media channels, I have a mini estate sale happening right now. It's a very small, no pun intended, sale, a very limited number of pieces, but some really high quality pieces. So you want to check that out. It's happening on my eBay site. We're going to put the link in there. It's closing today, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're interested, go shop quickly, see what's on there. There's only like 10 lots. And go and bid. Happy shopping, good luck. And that's what's happening in terms of sales. In terms of other things that are happening, I have a new webinar that I created. I don't know what you call it, but it's called The World's Most Extraordinary Dollhouses. And I launched it with the Monmouth County Library System in New Jersey. And it's basically all about, some of the more wonderful dollhouses in the world. It's a pay for presentation. So if you want to book me to come and present to your club, your school, your library, your local arts organization, we'll put the link in there. You can find out more information. But it's a really fun presentation and it was fun to do. And this is clearly the group for it. So I think you would enjoy it if you want to either book me for it to present to your own organization, or if you want to encourage a local organization that you are affiliated with to join. What else? Oh, one final thing. Yeah, as you know, I sell miniatures as a business, and mostly I'm a reseller. So if you have a collection that you want to sell, I have a webinar, free webinar next Saturday happening. It's called Selling Your Adored Collection. So I take you through all of your options if you are interested in selling a collection, not only if you wanted to work with me, but all of your options, whether you want to donate it, if you want to work with a museum, if you want to work with a reseller, I take you through all of your options. So check that out. The webinar is next Saturday at 10 a.m. on the 28th. And I do these, periodically every 6 weeks to 2 months. So if you miss this one, I'll be back with another one. But as always, you could always just reach out. You can call me. My number's on my website, or you can email me if you want to talk one-on-one about a collection that you're interested in having sold on your behalf or on behalf of a friend or a family member. We're going to also put all my links to all of my social media channels in there. Please follow me, like, subscribe. I'm doing a lot more work around YouTube, trying to put more content there. So go and follow me there, like, subscribe, and hit that like button and that bell button, because you'll find out when new things are happening and when new things I post. So with that, I am just excited, beyond excited, to bring up my next guest for this Meet the Miniaturist. Her name is Carol Rasaphangthong. I think I got that. Hi, Carol. So good to see you.
Hello.
I just want to introduce Carol. Carol is a filmmaker. She is a storyteller, and she's a passionate miniaturist. And so what's so amazing is we're going to get to talk to you and learn all about how you combine all of those different things together into this filmmaking, which is Buzzfeed, from what I understand. So let's get right to it. Let's talk a little bit about your background, schooling. How did you get to being a filmmaker? And then we'll get into all the miniature stuff.
Oh, great. Yeah. I came down to Los Angeles, actually. Well, first, sorry. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us on this lovely Sunday. And as far as my background, I moved down to Los Angeles about, I want to say, close to 14 years ago now, roughly, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
And I did go to film school, so I have education in films, background in film, and my major was production design, which is like basically building sets. And so
I didn't know that. Oh, so you were building sets in school. So this was part of your education. Oh, wow. Okay, that's a whole nother level.
Yeah. So that was my focus. So set design, and that's kind of how, that's a thing that's kind of transpired into my miniatures as well, because it's I do approach it more like building a set versus a diorama. So
right.
So I went to film school, got some education in that, and was doing a little bit of art direction at first, and somehow my path just kind of like slowly led me into videography work, which then circled me back to doing more video, like producing videos. And long story short, here I am at Buzzfeed, where we make videos.
Buzzfeed is all about making videos, making content. So take a step back though. You've always been interested in miniatures. Where did that miniature bug hit you, or when?
I can't even say that I know when, because I felt like I've always created it since I was a child. And I think, growing up, I remember just toying with any material that I can find, like tape, scissors, the most basic. And I just feel like one of the most vivid memories for me was just like, I used to have a small corner off to the side where I just craft things all day long. And I like to make little books. And I think it was because I always knew I wanted to be a storyteller. And I used to craft my own little small books. And had imagined one day I would be able to like lend those books out like a library with my own stories in it. And so I think, it's always kind of been in me. I've always just gravitated towards like cardboard and little scraps, and I just like to make things.
Was it more about the crafting and the making, and did you just find it easier making in miniature, or was it miniatures? Like, did you have a dollhouse? Like, was it just easier to work in miniature? Like, where did the smallness come, and where did that, like, why did that excite you? Or was it the small book telling a story? It's like, tell me about that inspiration.
You know, it's funny actually. For a long time, for as long as I can remember, I think that bug has just been innate in me, because I've always said this was like, I wish everything I owned could fit in the palm of my hands and fit in my pocket. Ever since I was a kid, I was like, imagine a nomadic lifestyle where, you know, I could just go anywhere in the world, and when I need my car, I could pull it out of my pocket and make it big,
Yeah.
and then I could use it, and I could blow up my house and then make it small again. So that was kind of the concept. Like, I always imagined that as a child.
Yeah.
So I think maybe it's just that imagination. I don't really know exactly what really did it.
But having it all fit in the palm of your hand, it's sort of kind of what it sounds like it is. It's like just having it all there at your disposal. That's awesome. All right. So filmmaking school, building, interested in miniatures. And how did this opportunity come along? Were you always working in miniature as a profession? Or so how did the Buzzfeed opportunity come along? So you know, how did that come about? Like, how did that pitch go? Where did the inspiration come from to combine those things to storytelling?
Well, right out of film school, just to kind of tie the strings together, is right out of film school, I did create a thing called Cool Town Creations, which some of the buildings you can see behind me, they were much smaller at one point, but some friends and I started that as just a means to exercise our filmmaking and we got into stop motion. So that's also a main reason why I circled back to miniatures and started building in small scale. It was feasible, and for stop motion, it was just the natural thing to do, obviously. And so we were doing that straight out of film school, just while we were all looking for a job. And then, you know, it just kind of became a thing that kept me going in between projects and going all the way up until this point. And it still does. So I still, you know, use it as a place where I can exercise my creativity as a storyteller and also to build. And so when I ended up at Buzzfeed, I was doing a bunch of other stuff at Buzzfeed, producing, like, cutting videos and things like that. And then I eventually moved over to the True Crime channel. And after a while, I kind of thought about, you know, it would be kind of unique to try this. And I don't know if the community knows of Frances Glessner Lee.
I think you'll find a lot of folks on here will know about her, sure.
Yeah. So while I was doing research, like, I actually, you know, ran into her work, and I just thought it was just so intriguing. And so there was that little bit of inspiration from what she did. And I was like, wow, if only I could be that great, like all the details. And so I think a little bit of that really just turned me on to the idea of like, well, why don't we do this? Nobody's doing it. And I think it'd be a very fascinating way to recount the cases.
Yeah. So talk about the network itself, a little bit about what that focus is and how you fit in there and what you're doing.
Okay, the channel I work on is the Buzzfeed Unsolved Network, which is a YouTube channel, one of many of Buzzfeed's branches. And we focus mostly on true crime, supernatural things, and all things that are like mysterious and questionable in the world. So, you know, there's a lot of different producers on there who have their own certain interests, and we cover more or less of one thing because of our natural interest in a thing.
Yeah.
So so that's
quite a humongous following. I think there's like 5.2 million subscribers on that channel. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it does have a big following. And the folks who built it originally had their show there, and that's like a big fan base of theirs. And that's, part of the thing is like inheriting a new audience. So it's kind of like, I hope they'll respond to this.
This is a relatively new endeavor, a new I don't know what you call it. It's not a channel within a channel. It's what, a series within a channel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. So what was that pitch like? I mean, I'm imagine you had to pitch this idea of telling stories using miniatures. What was that like? And was it relatively a quick, did they get it?
Yeah, well, fortunately, I'm lucky enough to work with a lot of like really creative people, and like my executive producers are usually very like open. So, and that's what's been great about working there is, they're really open to your interest and allowing you to kind of be creative and see where it goes. And I think I've been lucky to have that kind of support in this. And with the pitch, though, I did pitch it originally In 2000, I think 19, and then it didn't happen until just before COVID. I did one as a sample,
Yeah.
and it wasn't. I said the miniature is pretty cool, but the actual like video itself, I could have done better. Like I just really man, I don't like my performance of that. but but yeah, so that was the only one for a while, and it kind of went dormant for a minute because of COVID hit, and where everybody was struggling to kind of like, what can we do content wise that we're at home.
Yeah.
And then it came up again, and I was like, well, I mean, I can build stuff all day long.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So it almost like this is perfect.
Yeah, almost kind of seemed like it just fell into place, and it was just the opportunity presented itself. And we were trying to test out new show ideas, and I was like, I really want to revisit the miniature making and true crime, and they were all for it.
Yeah. So take us through the process. So right now, you have a segment, you have a show, you have a concept, and how does it come about? Like, where does the idea come from? And then take us through the process of putting that story together and then and building the miniatures. Like, what comes first? Do you have something in mind you want to build? Like, take us through the process of, because you do everything. You produce the story, you do the research. I mean, from what I understand, you do have help behind the scenes, but you're basically doing a lot yourself.
Yes.
So what process? Like, what comes first?
The first thing is really I do my preliminary research, and I kind of search to see what cases speak to me and what would be something that I want to cover. And once I curate that list, we kind of go over it with the team, and I get my green light on it. And then at that point, I submit my preliminary research to our research department. So our research department is amazing, and I couldn't do what I'm doing without them. So I'm so eternally grateful to them. And they're very patient because I ask a lot of questions. And they're great because also through the research team, not only am I asking questions about the case and the things I'd like to cover in the case, but I'm also getting floor plans and reference photos, things like that I can actually use to try to build the sets to.
So take a step back, because I need to go back. So go back to like the concept behind the piece itself. So you're telling a true crime story, fully researched, document. You're telling the story, and then you're using the miniatures to talk about that.
Well, I use the miniatures as an immersive tool. It's something that just transforms you, and it takes you on this thing, and you kind of you get to see, by recreating the crime scenes and things like that, you kind of get to see things that you wouldn't otherwise be allowed access to. And so it does give the viewers or the observer a unique perspective that is just very much unique to that specific thing.
I'm going to go ahead and share the video that you put together just to give folks a little idea about what it is you're doing and how you're doing it. And while we show that, let's talk a little bit about why miniatures. What do you think there is about miniatures that you determined it was important to use in the work, in the storytelling that you're doing?
I think that, again, miniatures are it's so transformative. And even if it were not for true crime, I feel like miniatures, it does take you into a world. Like even just observing a miniature when you're walking by it in a store window, you can't help but feel sucked into this world. Like it does kind of transport you in some way that, there's something about it. It's captivating. And I think, whether it's for true crime or for anything else that I do, I think miniatures just have something very unique about it. And it's just something tangible about a thing that may not exist. And that's partly why too, I like to make things, I would like to eventually branch into things where it's building locations that no longer exist too, just because it's not here. So it'd be kind of interesting to build it in its natural state as a miniature.
So let's talk about some of the stories that you've told already that are actually posted and are available to go and see. One of the ones that come up for me, and I'd love to hear more about, is the Watergate scandal that you covered. Is that the most recent one?
Yes, it is. It was the latest video.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about that. And like, what was the inspiration for that? Why did you okay, that's what I want to tackle next? Or
Well, for me, like for the longest, Watergate was a thing that you'd hear. And I would always go, okay, I get it, Watergate scandal, but what more? Like, I don't quite understand what happened. And, I think there were a lot of other people in the same boat. While there are people who know exactly what happened, they're very immersed in it. I myself was just like, I know the gist, but I'd like to know more. And that was one of the reasons why I was like, it'd be interesting to tackle this.
Yeah. And you're a whole nother, you were born way later. So it's probably all learning for you. Was it all learning for you in a lot of ways?
No, not really. I feel like it's always been something that, I've heard and known about for as long as it's, So, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I don't think so.
So we do have a question from Dave. Good question. What was the oldest and the newest one you've done? So there were 3. So let's talk about the 3 of them. And Watergate is the most recent. And what were the other 2?
The other 2 were the Mona Lisa heist. And then the one before that was the yogurt shop murders, which is a real case that they're all real cases, obviously, but that was a case that happened in Austin, Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen those other 2. They're on my list. I've got to see them. They are relatively short. They go under 15 minutes, right? Would you say?
Yeah, for at the moment, it's one of those things where the series, like, we're kind of testing the waters a little bit to see how people will, I guess, receive it, to see if it's something that will, be good for the audience. And so right now, just that running time is what we're just throwing it out there to see for retention and things like that. But we've gotten some sentiments about people wanting it to be longer.
Oh, is that right? That was going to be my next question. What is if you can share, of what you can share, what is some of the early read? I mean, because I love the one that I did see, and I can't wait to see the others too. So, and where is that coming from? Like, where is that feedback coming from?
Those are direct comments that people leave on YouTube. So that's the thing, it's like good and bad, because it's a cesspool of bad things and also good things. So it's hard for me because I'm an artist first. And so I'm really sensitive about my work. So there are times where I could feel a little bit reluctant to look, but I have to, just for constructive feedback.
Because it's part of your job.
Yeah. So it's really just direct, feedback from the audience themselves. And usually at the end of all my videos, I have a CTA just asking people what else they'd like me to explore with miniatures, what other cases, because I genuinely, would like to learn more about cases that I may not know about, that might be interesting to explore and bring to the forefront so other people can learn about it.
So anything specific around the miniatures? Are they loving the miniatures? Are they like going, oh, wow, this is great that you use that? Like, what is some of the response to the miniatures?
Oh man, it's been positive responses with the miniatures. Like, that's the thing. Yeah. So fortunately, it's a good fallback, because if they don't care for me as a host, then they at least appreciate the miniatures. And that's been such a great thing to hear, is everybody's just like, been nothing but positive about the builds.
Well, that I think is the biggest hook here. That is what makes this so different and so interesting. And, because they can go read on Wikipedia the story, but the miniatures are what's compelling. I mean, you're talking to a miniaturist, so that's why I love it. But I can imagine that's why I asked, where is that coming from? Because there are a lot of people who just have no exposure to miniatures at all out there. And when they see it for the first time outside the scope of Dollhouse, they start to see it in a different way, and there's generally a really good response. Once you pull out the childhood stuff that comes along with Dollhouse and miniatures, it becomes a lot more interesting to them. So I'm not surprised that they're drawn to the miniatures. So for sure. So Donna wants to know if do you work in 12 scale or different sizes depending on the scene? And let's talk about scale, because I thought that whole wall behind you was all tiny, tiny stuff. It's not. You tell us the scale that you work in.
It varies, actually. A fun fact is, like, I hate measuring, but obviously we have to. And I actually do work mostly in 1/24. I like to do the half-inch scale, also only because keep the math simple. But also there are times where I do go a little bit smaller, to like 1/4 inch scale, and that's sometimes if I'm trying to save some space. As you can see, my shelf is like really filling up.
Miniatures this isn't even a lot of space.
Yeah. So there are some that I have dismantled, but that's generally the size, the scale that I work in. It's just something that, it's just I guess I'm comfortable with it, although I would explore other scales if necessary. But mostly the stuff I've been building lately is in that 1/24 scale.
Is 1/24. Okay, I stopped your video at the at this part where you're crafting the build for the Oval Office and the Watergate scandal. So let's talk about this because you know, I want to talk about some of the challenges you face when you're trying to put these builds together. Are you working against the timeline, number one? And what are some of the challenges you come up with? And then what are some of the solutions you have? Because I know from our previous discussions that you work with various technologies and techniques. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm usually on a pretty tight deadline. And you know, it kind of started out at first as like, again, when we went into this, we were kind of piloting things. And so they gave us a set amount of time. Like, I think I could do that in 2 weeks. But these past 3 episodes, actually, it was in 3 weeks. So each of them, I had 15 days to actually build everything and shoot everything. And so, which is a very tight deadline. And that is based off of my loose schedule of how I do things. But that being said, though, I will be requesting more days. Like, please
15 days is not even enough just for the build. You're doing the build and the filming and by the way, you do all of the on-air voiceover. You're the face of the channel of that series. So you do that too. You film yourself?
Yeah, I do. And it was important for me going into this, as much as like I honestly don't like to be on camera. I felt like if I'm going to do this and put my miniature work out there, I have to be the face of it. Like, I just, you know, through past experience, I feel like I've seen too many times where I've put my work in other people's hands and it just doesn't quite pan out. And so I'm like, this is a must. I can't have anyone else representing this. And so that's just the reason why I stepped in front of the camera and just did it, you know. So I kind of got over myself. But yeah, no, like the challenges definitely is the time. And again, that was a time that I threw out there loosely. So I'm sure they'll be open to adjusting that for me. But yeah, there's always, you know, in terms of like this set, for example, the dating game, you know, that sign was just so difficult to get right, like the angle and everything, and it's on a curved wall. So that was one of the biggest challenges there. And then for Watergate, like the rug was literally the last thing I made because I wasn't quite sure how it was going to turn out, what material I wanted to use for it, and if I could sell the effect, you know, as much as sometimes I try to get things to, you know, to use the material that it's actually made out of. It doesn't quite fit, as we all know. You know, some things are too thick and you sometimes have to manufacture your own pieces. Right. So yeah, there's usually something in the build that always, you know, challenges me. And I'm always like, how will I make you material wise, you know?
Right. And what techniques and what machinery do you use? So you use a CD, do you use a 3D machine, a 3D and laser? Like, what are your go-to technologies?
Actually, I have a 3D printer and I actually don't use it as much. I would like to, but at the stage that I'm at right now with learning like 3D modeling, I'm so like in the infancy stages that it would be quicker for me to just hand make something versus trying to like make sure it's the right scale and then test printing. It just would take too long. Although I do have access to that in the event that I really need to make something that I'm unable to make, you know, by hand.
Cricut too? Cricut also?
Yes, the Cricut cutter. Yes, that's
where you had the little the rug pieces were from a Cricut.
Yes, the star. So the rug itself was just a piece of neoprene that I had to like carefully cut into a circle. But the stars and the seal, those were digitally designed. So I designed that first to scale and then had the Cricut cutter do the cutting.
That's awesome. I love how you pull all the different pieces. And is everything mostly scratch built, or do you purchase pieces at times, or?
No, everything's scratch built.
Everything's scratch built. That's crazy. I love it. Let's see. Okay, Carol's saying, are you aware of the nutshell studies? And yes, you are. And Frances Glessner, in fact, we were just talking that you were somewhat inspired by her work. You should go and see, there's not a museum, but there's a place you can see her work. It's in Maryland, I believe. So, but it is open to the public, but I think you have to make a reservation. But yeah. But you are aware of Frances Glessner, which is pretty awesome. What were the other questions? All right, so that's just awesome. All of that. So, we showed a little bit of some of your outside the scope of the Buzzfeed work. You talked a little bit about the whimsical stuff that you work on. We got a touch of some of the other work you do outside. What are some of the other kinds of things that you like to make that are not related to your work?
Well, I do have something that is like a long-term project. That's something within the next 2 years I'm trying to do, and it does involve like that abandoned piece that we talked about.
Oh, yeah.
It's something that's a smaller part of something bigger, and there's something fictional I'm working on around it. And as a storyteller, it's just a different way of creating an experience for people to experience the story and miniatures. So eventually, I would love, I guess, I mean, I would love for people to see them in person and make it available for people to come and see them, only because I feel like the reaction I get from people who visit me, they're usually drawn to this, and they're usually just like in awe, and they're like, "You made this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess I did."
Wow.
But yeah, so there's that, and I do other work that is stop motion related, which I build sets for that too. So there's little things here and there that's not BuzzFeed related that I take on that does require builds and that stop motion skills.
Yeah, we didn't get to, which was we talked offline about this, but one of your favorite, what are some of your what do you love to do within the miniatures? I think we talked about lighting as being really that's the fun part for you. Like, talk a little bit about what parts do you really love?
Yeah, absolutely. Lighting is one of the fun things for me. I think the other fun part is really just dropping a camera in there. Then if you haven't done it, I would encourage everyone who has a miniature, stick a camera inside of it, and see it from a different perspective. That's the one thing that really does inspire me a lot, is when I'm building and in the process of doing things, I test out my shots, and I have to do that a lot because, again, my approach to miniatures is more from like as a production designer. So I have to build these things to be able to like remove the walls so I can get the camera in, so everything's kind of modular. So nothing's like, I can't really permanently affix anything, simply because I have to change that composition and things like that. And so yeah, that's one of the things I look forward to the most, is once it's finished, lighting it and really putting a camera in front of it so people can see it and feel it. Like, just really it takes it to a whole other dimension when you can like change the environment from just it sitting on your shelf to now it's in a world.
For sure.
So
usually into the story, for sure. It takes you in. Do you use a special camera, or are you just putting your phone in there? Like what?
I have a variety of cameras. There are times where I do just slide my phone in there, but I do have like little tiny cameras, like the Osmo Pocket, for example. It's a small little like gimbal camera, and it's brilliant. It shoots like 4K. It's awesome. So really? I kind of use it like a probe like lens. So I like to take it into the miniatures, and I think people enjoy that too. And every time I make one of these, I try to figure out a way, like, how can I take them through this miniature to tell the story so that they can experience this set too.
Yeah, there are there are a lot of great videos on your YouTube, on your Instagram account, which we're going to plop into the chat box if we haven't already. You've got some great videos on there that do take us through different perspectives of and being in the room. I know you have the curved lens, and you take us through, and it's really it's fun just as a miniaturist to see that. So I can only imagine like what general public is getting out of that, just being inside that miniature. It's really cool. You're doing some really cool stuff that we're not used to seeing, but I'm just so glad that you are doing that kind of stuff and pushing the envelope and creating, and miniatures have always been about storytelling. And so to see it in this format is just so thrilling. And oh, by the way, you're getting educated by hearing these stories and learning about them. Laura wanted to know about, was that the set for the dating game killer? I think it was, right? And yes, is that something that we're going to see? That's not up there now, is it?
That's on BuzzFeed?
Yeah.
Oh, it's there.
I only thought there were 3 episodes.
No. Oh, well, see, here's the thing. I should just let me clarify.
Hello.
So the So the first pilot, the original pilot you saw in the little montage clip there of the garage where I'm putting the car in, that was the very first one I did. And originally I pitched it as building a case, which I mean, it's so good, but but it evolved. So it had its natural evolution. So I went from building a case to, we've changed it to a couple different names. So now like Key Evidence is what the new iteration is. So that's what it is. So if you're looking for Lizzie Borden, if you're looking for like H.H. Holmes, you'll find it under the Building a Case playlist. I'm sorry, I did not specify that.
So how many of your work pieces are up there?
I've done a total of 8 of these already.
Okay, so there are 8 there that we should look for. I only thought that there were 3. Wow. So is there, that's great news. That there are more. I was wondering about that. I thought these were in the works and we were going to see them, but they're there. So is there in the works that you can give us a little hint about? Curious.
For Buzzfeed?
Yeah.
Well, I do have a few cases on my list that I'm looking to pitch and get greenlit, but there are some ideas that I have a couple different cases that I think they're pretty solid ones. And one possibly might be another Hollywood true crime. So that's one that we haven't touched that is location specific. So it does take place in a home here in Los Angeles, obviously. So that has a lot of reference photos. And so I'm kind of excited. So hopefully that's one that can get greenlit and I can like move forward with it.
Well, that's all very, very exciting. I'm just loving everything that you're doing. As we wrap up this wonderful Meet the Miniaturist, does anybody have any other questions while we have Carol with us? I can't wait to see what's ahead. I've liked, subscribed. I've got that alert button popped. I can't wait to see what's next. Now I can't wait to go back and find out what else is there. So I'm just excited. I don't think there are any more questions. Carol, thank you so much for being with us today and joining this Meet the Miniaturist. It was great talking to you and seeing your wonderful work. And we can't wait to see what's ahead. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm so flattered to, be a part of the community. And thank you for having me. And I will say, I do have a lot of build footage and I'm planning to put all that together because I've seen a lot of people say, I want to see how you made it. So
definitely
be on the lookout for that. And it's going to be like full on, like just real time from start to finish. Not the prettiest footage, but just the entire thing for anyone who wants to see how I made anything. So.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you everybody at home. Have a great rest of your day too. Bye.